Hey, family, welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Platform. Today, we are talking about business automation. And what I get a lot of questions about is how can I live that 4 hour work week? There's a book out there called A 4 Hour Work Week that tells you that you can run your business, put it on autopilot, and live the life of your dreams. So, how is that possible? It's just not something that you can automatically do. So, today I have a very special guest with me. He is a very, very talented individual. I have known Rob for about 6 years now. And
Mhm.
Rob is the head of our virtual assistant team because for your business to be on autopilot, that means you as the owner will have to delegate some of the responsibility out, some of those mundane daily tasks, some of the admin tasks. Those are the things that you have to delegate out to a team. And that way you can really live and start to live the life of your dreams. So, Rob, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, Tyrus, and good day to you guys, all of you who are watching.
So, Rob, let's kind of kick this thing off
Let's
from the
go.
very beginning.
Hmm.
So, business automation. When we're talking about that, we're talking about I have a business and we're going to use real estate because it's
Hmm.
both of our bread and butter.
Right.
I have a business and it's in real estate and I want to be a wholesaler. And for the crowd and the audience that does not know what wholesaling is, really quick, wholesaling is when you send out a list or you find a list of properties that you're
Hmm.
interested in. You send that out to a skip tracer where you get back information. You find the owner's name, their telephone number, their mailing address. And then you either mail postcards or you can cold call or you can text that owner and tell them that you want to buy their property. Now, the wholesaling part comes in is when you get that contract, you put a little bit extra on it, say $5,000 above what you agreed to pay,
Hmm.
and then you find a end buyer to sell it to. So you're kind of like a middleman. Now, what traps a lot of new people and a lot of people in this part of the business is I got to make all these phone calls and I got to find the list and I got to keep up with the spreadsheets and I got to you do all the work and the back end work and that kind of you giving yourself a full-time job. You can't live your life on your dreams and that's not on autopilot.
Hmm.
Bob here has been doing wholesaling for years, working for some of your largest real estate Mongols, I like to call them, some of the biggest companies out there. He has done that kind of work. So, Rob, when we're first starting this, give a little background on how you got into being that virtual assistant, that go to guy.
Well, um, I didn't really, I didn't have proper training. I just went in and dived when a client asked me to be a wingman for him back in Arkansas. And this man showed me the ropes on how the IPO, the input, process, and output, how you acquire properties, how you make money out of those properties you acquired through selling, and building a database of sellers, and how you get those sellers in the first place, through means of marketing. Um, well, one thing that I have that really struck me was the fact that the business can be automated, the
Mhm.
wholesaling per se. I was looking for the purpose. In every venture I go into, I always look for the purpose. And I figured that virtual assistants would be very, very um, useful in this arena, or in this business, for the reason that an owner doesn't really have to watch a virtual assistant make calls. You
Right,
know, this is where the saying, um, at the end of the day, the numbers is all that matters.
right.
You call as many people as as you can as a virtual assistant, no matter whether you make 1,000 calls, 300 calls, or even 10 calls. At the end of the day, the business owner will only look at the number of leads that you were able to convert into an appointment. Thus, we were called appointment setters back then, back in 2011. So I, you know, I really tried to find the loophole where, but this is a good loophole. Back then, virtual assistants were rare as far as assistants who are reliable, accurate, and consistent.
Yeah.
In this business, what you need is not just a warm body going to work, clocking in and clocking out, not just a person contacting leads and not caring about those sellers. Because at the end of the day, if the seller feels that you are, a load of BS, if you may, they wouldn't even, they wouldn't even want to do anything with you on the second call. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys would agree, but if you have experienced talking to a seller and have encountered the different types of seller demeanors, then you would understand where I'm coming from. So if you care, you would understand that there's a different approach for different types of sellers. Sometimes, and not a lot of VAs understood that at that time. They were just calling, hey, I'm calling for this, and XYZ company. Are you interested in selling your house? It's a script.
Yep.
So, so back in the company that I was in 2011, there were five of us, and I'm thankful and glad to say that I was one of the top two. That was bringing in appointments after appointments and after appointments. Um, and when I was asked by the other VAs, I just told them, just you use the script for reference. You don't really follow it by step process. There was this one time a recording that we listened to by an employee who got canned. uh, the seller said, "Go to hell." Thank you very much for that, sir. Um, how many bedrooms does your property have? You will always get a hang up, and not a lot of people will get that because not everyone can give, can care. So um, the loophole that I found was I tried to look for ways on how this guy, the client who's paying me, to go out there and look for businesses that he can convert into money. Because my thinking was, if this guy becomes rich, I'm going to be half the richer. Why? Because I can maintain my job. You
Absolutely.
know, I can ask for a raise. I can even ask for commission bonuses if he closes properties. I can even ask for tasks such as, hey, you know what? I think you're you're far better going out there than writing contracts. Let me do it for you. You know,
Absolutely.
that's worth a raise, right? So, unlike other people or other VAs, they just want to raise out of nowhere, doing the same thing over and over again. The repetitive tasks of contacting these leads. Yes, that is just one part of the client making money. The client referring to the wholesalers, but technically, what I was looking to do was to ease up the day-to-day tasks. How can I make this person's daily load, time consuming but still important tasks, off his shoulders so that he can go out there and hunt more businesses. Not everything, by the way, and this, guys. Not everything or every property you close comes from yellow letters. Not every property you close comes from skip tracing or Facebook marketing.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just have to go to a meeting, like the BWI meetup, for example. You go to a meeting, and or the Baltimore area. You go out there and you plug yourself, The tools, these meetings are very essential for wholesalers, because I find that if you work hard enough, everybody's going to give you an airtime to advertise yourself. So, technically, that's that's how I did it in Arkansas, and that's the reason why my client became successful. Um, yeah,
That's
Tyrus, I was.
beautiful. I love hearing your story, Rob, because a lot of times I find that, and what we're talking about here in this specific meeting is how to build relationships to build your business and automate it. A
Mhm,
lot of times, what people want to do, and what we found, and what I've heard is, well, I can get this VA to do this task. There's no training in place. There are no standard operating procedures in place. And then those same people come back and say, hey, I had this VA. VAs don't work. It failed. It didn't work out for me. Now, this is why this, and the reason is because in order to set your business on autopilot, you have to standardize your procedures. As the owner of the business, that is your responsibility. You can't
mhm,
delegate that away. And I've tried to delegate that away before. And I have someone like Rob come and say, hey, sir, I need you to create this, and then we can tweak it. So when you're building and starting your VA team, and Rob knows this, my late mentor, Kenny Gills, he was partners with Kenny before I met him. Kenny kind of came together with you, Rob, and you guys
mhm,
created the idea of having a lead VA recruit other VAs and train them.
mhm,
Now, it seems like today there are some other companies trying to do that, but back in 2014, I've heard nobody. Everybody was going to Odesk, they were
mhm.
going to Elancers, they were going to today they still go to Fiverr. And you could tell me what you think about that. But my problem when I went to Odesk before I met you was I had a VA from Odesk. I didn't really know what that VA was doing. I think they worked from home. Then sometimes I couldn't get in touch with them. Everything wasn't done. I really didn't have a point of contact to go to get it done. So when I
Right.
started working with you, Rob, and the team, I was like, wow, there's a team of people working in an office
Mhm.
and they have a manager. And it ain't me.
Yeah.
And that seems like that's the perfect setup for a VA team. And you guys, I have been working with Rob since 2014. I have not went anywhere else. Rob manages my VA team. Rob trains them. I created the operating procedures, and then Rob implemented it. So when you're talking about you want a VA to do this task, you need to have that task laid out in front of them. You can't just pass them, hey, can you make 100 calls a day and get appointments? They're going to ask you how. And like Rob alluded to earlier, there's scripts involved. And I knew you were going to say that, and I wanted to take it here. What I found successful about our VAs and our team, Rob, is that they are more human.
Mhm.
When you're reading that script, it's robotic. And like you said,
Exactly.
they don't even respond to an angry seller. It's just how many bedrooms and how many bathrooms.
Mhm.
So, Rob, how do you, I guess, how does the training work behind the scenes? I'm not always there, but I know that you do training. How do you do that? How do you pick that person that's going to be right for the team? Because people, I don't pick the team. Rob does.
Mhm.
Rob trains the team. He said, hey, sir, I got a new person I want to add to the team. This is what they're good at. This is what they can do. And Rob, I have enough confidence and trust in Rob to know that he knows exactly how I like it, how I want it, and it's just plug and play for him. But tell me, how did you get to that point, Rob? How did you become leave from being just a VA with a company to being the manager and being the boss? Because this is a company for you now.
Yeah. Well, Tyrus, thank you very much for that question, because this will edify the very purpose, the very reason why I got into this business in the first place. My intention was to sell the rarest commodity in the planet. And what is that? In this business, it's reliability. First thing, you can't rely on somebody. You can't have accuracy. You can't have production. You can't have consistency. Why? Because there's no person working.
Right.
So that's the reason why Kenny and I thought about, you know, we have to build a dojo. A dojo is in martial arts lingo. It's a place of practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place of discipline where you practice on a daily basis. You meditate. You do whatever it is that will make you stronger, will make you better the next day. Thus, the saying, you get 1% better each day. You can't. It's hard to be 20% better than yesterday, but it sure as hell can be. It's doable to be at least 1% better than what you were yesterday. So, guys, how many times have you hired somebody, trained them for 2 weeks, or a week, or 5 days, or whatsoever, and then discovering that either you'd have to fire them because of incompetence, or they leave you after they've gotten all the information and the money that you pay them for those, for that period. Um, just like that. How
Well,
many times have you done that, Tyrus? Personally, can you tell us?
before I met you several times, and you brought up an interesting point.
Yeah.
What happened to my data?
Exactly, exactly. And that's the reason why how Kenny and I got to work together in the first place. You know, Here's the backstory of it, okay? And I'll answer your question later on. I was working for another VA company. Okay, I was after my Arkansas run, I was drafted by a big firm, a VA firm, who's not office based, by the way. They have a U.S. entity, and then they just outsource the already outsourced job.
Right.
They're becoming the wholesalers in this business. I mean, in this situation. So they get the businesses, overseas, or in the states where they are also stated. Um, and then they contact, or they have a person here who is a headhunter. Okay. Now the headhunter must be able to submit the final interview the same day they received the resume. Now, let's all admit that in a job interview, you can be Superman, you can be Batman, but in reality, you're just you know, you're just Bart Simpson.
Right. Yep.
you know,
Absolutely.
as long as you're a good speaker and have the presence of mind to fake it, you can be somebody who you want to be in an interview.
Yep.
Now, the problem with that is going to the top three things I mentioned earlier: consistency. How long can that person be consistent with him or herself? Proving whatever she told everybody about him or herself in the interview. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying if somebody says, uh, later down the road she might love the job, or probably she could come to the realization that she would like to work the job that she got. But honestly, some people do it because they need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I'm looking for. Are you trying to get in this to survive, or you want to grow as a
Yeah.
person?
Yeah.
That's the first question. And second, are you willing to do what is necessary? What is necessary? Even not unless your leg is amputated, you still go to work. You know, I'm not saying this is a good practice, but excuse me, from a standpoint where my my own standards. Rather, it's not global standards though, but I'm still human. I still have a human heart. But I make these people, my team, to understand that we are not working selling pancakes. You know, like if we're closed today, they can still pick another restaurant to eat, you
Mm,
know?
yep.
And I'm referring to my clients' clients. So the families of my clients or our clients rely on us to put food on their table, to pay for tuition, to pay for gas, electricity, utility bills, everything else. So before I take on a client, I meditate on their situation. And I'm not saying that all clients I had have, situations where they couldn't pay, their bills or anything like that. It's rarely the case, but I'm pretending to be facing with a client who's in, who's on a very, very bad situation, meaning I act as if it's the last month we're going to be working with. And it is up to my team and myself to extend that month for another month, and so on and so forth.
So you're going
So
all in for the client. That's your
all in,
mentality.
all in for the client.
We are
Absolutely.
going to get this done, and I can attest to that because in difficult times you have always said, "Sir, what do we need to do right now? How to get through it? Let's push." And you've always done that. So that is the absolute truth that you're speaking. and
Yes, sir. Yeah, because yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be very, very honest with everybody here. I'm not trying to sell you an idea. Okay, I'm not trying to sell you what you want to hear. I'm not trying to tell you what you want to hear. The truth is, clients must be able to work with VAs. You know, the relationship Tyrus and I had for the past 6 years has never been like, king and peasant. It's always been king and engineer and architect. That has been the situation. And it's not for ego or for any non-business related emotions. No, nothing like that. And I'm going to tell you exactly the reason how I became so effective working with Kenny, working with Tyrus, and working with everyone else that I'm still working with. Okay, in a team, like if you think about a SWAT team, it's never always going to be a guy with a pistol. There's a shotgun. There's a person who's going to take down the door.
right,
There's a person who is, sniping on the roof. Why? Because, you don't need a battalion just to be able to go to war. You need to be able to put your chess pieces together and make use to the best of their, to the best use of their time, their skill set, their ability to interact with people. If there's a person who's not really good at talking, then but good at admin stuff, then put them in the admin stuff,
exactly. Knowing where
right?
to put the proper pieces.
Exactly. If there's a person who is good at talking and closing, but not really that detail oriented in admin work, then don't give them other work than making phone calls and making sure things are smooth with on the other end of the client. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I like to talk to your point right there. That's another thing that I see as a hang up is a person will, okay, I want a VA and then I want them to do all these things,
Yeah.
but they're not thinking in the terms of skill set. And they're hiring an admin VA, like you said, that's
Hmm.
great with clerical data, great with inputting information, great with spreadsheets. And then they say, well, I want you to do cold calling now. Well, that's not that person's strong suit.
Right.
And then if you don't, and then even if you have a beautiful written script and say the seller or the owner or whatever client answers that phone, if they take it off of the script, then you have a person that doesn't know how to come back and react to that. So
Right,
that's a very, I like that key point that you made of putting each person, that each piece has a duty.
right. But
And
I'm not saying, yeah, I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
and for our relationship, you have always put the right people and you switched them out. Even there have been pieces that got switched out, and I'm like, Rob, what happened to such and such? He said, Sir, they weren't doing the job to the standard, and I had to let them go. And so we put this person in this position. I'm already training them up. They have everything. We're good to go.
Right. And just to commend the SOP. Tyrus is very good in admin, and he wants to make, just like a good father, he wants to make sure that there's a food inside the refrigerator when he goes out of town that I can just put in the microwave and heat so that I can eat. He prepares everything. He paves the way so that uh, the troops can come in and zoom in as fast as we can, focused on one thing and one thing alone. Just accomplishing our task on that day. So that's what I'm talking about. The team doesn't refer to a team of people working for you. It involves you as a client, a wholesaler. May you be a wholesaler, a baker, a lawyer, whatever. You are in the team. If you have that mentality and you get away from um the teachings of mentors from 2008 or 2009, that you should get in a $2 $3 assistant,
Oh,
and you crucify them to one position alone, and that is sweeping the floor. You're not going to grow. Remember, if you if you just digest every mentor that you hear on YouTube, every mentor that you come across Facebook broadcasting themselves, what is the message? They may be telling you different stories. They may be telling you different set of sentences, but the gist of what they're telling you is that, and even big companies, you know, it's a people that makes the company,
yep.
and you are involved in it. Do not disassociate yourself and pretend that if you hire VA, there's a do it for you package somewhere in the in the contract. There's nothing like that. There's only going to be a do it for you package if you are selling a common commodity and a stock, or a set of items that you can monetize that won't go rare. In this case, in wholesaling, there's been a lot of experiences Tyrus and I had, wherein we did not act on a property, and then calling that owner an hour later, the property is already under contract.
Absolutely. Yep.
There's been too many times in 6 years that had happened. So you know it's really, I'm not really, what I'm trying to say is that is this: you hire a person, you hire a VA or whoever, where it may be a person who is physically present or a person who is online. It's all the same. If you are not able to manage yourself and blend along with the person you hired, not by high fives or nothing like that, the jokes, or it's not really making money. What I'm trying to say is, if you blend with the person you hired and try to duplicate that person to be the second you, then you might just have the 4 hour work week, or
Yep.
4 hour work week that you are aspiring for.
Right.
You know,
Exactly. So as we pivot just a little bit into, Rob and I are going to go down just a basic structure setup. And
Mhm.
what I'm going to do, we actually did a presentation on business automation. And what I'll do is I'll put the link in so you can go and watch that video when you have time.
Mm.
basically run down a deep dive into business automation. But this is what your setup should look like. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. We just do real estate. That's our bread and butter. But every industry has its daily and mundane tasks that can be automated. First, foremost, start your business. Figure out who you are as the CEO in your business. Once you do that, write down every single thing that you have to do every day to make that business work. Once you have all those things down, then start to write procedures around how you do what you do. This is kind of what me and Rob do. So I use a software called Screencast-O-Matic.
Mhm.
If I'm doing something like, for instance, registering a rental property in Baltimore City, you got to call the Maryland Department of Environment, get a lead tracking number, and all that information. So what I do is I record myself making that phone call. The screencast will record and it will capture your screen as well so they can see every click that I'm doing. It's a video, it has audio. They hear the interaction. And then I just upload that into something like Google Drive where we all share the folders. And I type up a written SOP to do that.
Right.
So you have both the written and the video. Now you have to do this work. And I think a lot of people don't want to do this work. They want to say, hey, Rob, register this lead property, call this number and figure it out. Well, I'm quite sure that Rob can do that because Rob has that kind of experience and he is a lead person. So he is alpha. He's going to be able to figure that out. But for your administrative VAs that all they do is clerical kind of work, they may not know how to get and navigate that process. And we've had it when we brought new team members on, they call and they say, hey, the person that the lead said this information wasn't right. How do I figure that out, sir? And I say, okay, what did they tell you? And they have a recorded call. So I listen to it, I figure it out. We put that in the SOP for the next time, just in case. So after you get your business, figure out who you are, figure out all the things necessary to run it, record yourself doing all of those things and putting them in a place like Google Drive.
Mhm.
Then when you go to hire your virtual assistant, you could say, hey, this is the process I want you to do. I have it recorded. I have it written down. Try this out on this task and let me know how it goes. And for Rob, what he does for me is he records phone calls. He records any kind of interactions that he may have. And then he brings the questions back to me and say, hey, sir, this is what we ran into doing that task. Is this right or is this wrong? Also, give your virtual assistant ability to contact you, whether you use Hangouts, whether you use email, whether they can call you on the phone. I don't know how many times I've seen people give VAs a task and then just run away and can't be found. So they get stuck. And then you're mad saying, hey, why did you call 1,000 people? Well, sir, I called 10 and then this happened and I tried to reach you and I couldn't get to you. So you have to kind of be there throughout the process too, because you just can't run away. So the next step to that is, and for me personally, I don't know, it depends on how big you want to grow your business, what all you have to put on autopilot, but I like a team. One person can get sick, like Rob said, and they may not show up, or they may go away and take your data. So we have a team. If one person's missing, the team is dual trained to do the other person's task. And I think that's one of the key points that is very necessary. You need a Rob. You need someone who can manage that team for you, or you'll just be managing it all day.
Mhm.
So Rob is just like a high level meeting. I'm the CEO. Rob's my lead manager. We meet, talk, consult, go over what's going to be done. Rob takes it to the team. Rob comes back to me with whatever the team has and says, "Hey, sir, team ran into this. What can we do better? How can we change it?" And another point, again, Rob brainstorms with me. He's not just somebody that I tell what to do and expect him to do it. He brings ideas to the table that you will not get from a two, three, $4 VA, because that is the other big thing that I run into. Well, VA should only cost $4 because that's what I heard on YouTube. Well, a $4 VA is only going to input data from one spreadsheet to another, and they may not do that accurately. You have to have people that are skilled, that can work outside of the box, that can think, that can be on another level. And Rob is on that level. After you found your VA and you started to build and you gel and you got a relationship, train them. Any kind of business training, articles. I mean, Rob can attest that I will look at a website and I'm like, man, this looks good. And I'll take it and I put it in a chat and say, hey, Rob, can we do something like this? So training, any kind of sales or marketing or negotiation or tactics or the new stuff on the block, if I get that information, I share it with Rob. I don't keep it to myself because I want Rob to help me grow. So that is another thing that you do. Treat your VAs, your assistants, like family. They're working for you. You are trying to pay them to get a service, but treat them like a family, not just someone that, like Rob said, you can just burn to the end, make 2,000 phone calls, and that's all I want you to do. Because if you invest in your people, they will produce. And that is what I have seen time and time and time again with Rob and the team. And so a couple of those roles that Rob had mentioned: clerical data entry, admin. Then you have your phone cold calling VAs that they are very skilled in working on the phone. You have your media and tech VAs that do websites, logos, content creation, Facebook posts, Instagram, all that marketing. That's a totally different person. You have to have a person skilled in that skill set. Then once you grow large enough, you have yourself a Rob, a managerial VA that can do a little bit of everything, that can go and spot check. Rob, what would you say that your skill set is? If you had to do one task all day, what would that be other than managing?
Well, I'm going to be on the phones. I'm going to be on the phones making phone calls and closing.
Yep. I knew you was going to say that. Rob is the closing. Rob is actually, so we go kind of through a three-prong process. We have VAs that text and call. And then once we get enough information from the seller or from that person that we reached out to, it goes up to the next level. And sometimes that's another person, or sometimes that's Rob.
Hmm.
Rob is the like he said, appointment setter. He's going to get that appointment. And then myself, or like I have someone else on the team that will go out and do to the actual appointment at the house. So my involvement in this is very little other than keeping the team jailed and rolling. So you need that closer, that person that can get on the phone, and it doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be the direct owner of the company all the time. I mean, we have I took Rob and the team from doing wholesaling to doing property management. And they were talking to owners, they were talking to tenants, they were handling the work orders, they were talking to city officials, and nobody ever knew that, hey, these guys aren't even in the local area. They're virtual. You remember when it was Mike that said, "Hey Rob, can you meet me down here one day?"
Yeah,
He
I
knew
remember that.
that you weren't even local. And that's when the team is really, really rocking, when there's no difference, when you can't tell that, oh, this person sounds like a robot that I don't even want to talk to them. No, we have human beings talking to you that can find the right moments, find the right words. And I mean, I remember Rob when, And I always like to talk to Rob. Me and Rob, we just have so many stories. I remember when had my uncle listen to you call when we were trying to do some work in Alabama.
Yeah.
Man, Rob is a smooth brother. He said it's so smooth on the phone that I didn't even know. So that's kind of a lot of the things that we do as a team, how we grow and keep the team gel together. So, Rob, I have a question for you. Do you feel like
Shoot.
there's been any instances where you failed, where you have some type of failure to, something didn't work out, or how do you, anything that you failed on in this whole career of yours?
Well, yes, I have a lot of them. Before I even got to you and got to the other clients that I'm still working with now, um, I have encountered clients where they thought about virtual assistants as, disposable people,
Oh yeah.
people they can point the finger to when, crap hits the fan. The problem is, just like what you said, if you observe the wholesalers, the property management companies that are successful and still using a virtual assistant and still successful, even so, they treat their team members like family. And I'm not saying, when a VA has a family problem, comes running to you, you send money, outside of what your responsibilities are as an employer. Nothing like that. What I'm saying is, don't be short-sighted as a client. Do not be short-sighted wherein every minute has to count. I have to, if you think the team member is idle and you suspect that the VA is not working, it's not the way that works. With speaking from a VA standpoint, it's not going to work that way.
Mm-hmm.
You're just driving that person away from becoming a person that you can rely on when you're at the hospital, fighting for your life, and the business still needs to run because it will pay for the bills. It's not going to work that way because the concern, the heart is not felt by, putting your employees on the clock and like, you know, always suspecting that they're doing something behind your back. It's nothing like that. There's a saying, there's no limit to what you can do when you know who you are.
Oh yeah.
And that applies to the people you are working with. There's no limitation, as far as concern the employees can give you if you know who they are. And it works. It's a two-way street. If you know who they are, if they know who you are as a person and as a boss, and if you have set the line, if you have set the protocols in a manner where they would understand, oh, Tyrus is in this mood. I can't crack a joke. He's in business mode. So, they will take the time to know you. And knowing you means knowing the things you love, the things you hate. And that's a good relationship. That's a good relationship to start off with. You know, they will love you as a boss of your company, and as a friend. And they would then be able to determine or separate the two, business and personal. And they will just be, during the 8-hour shift, we can't crack jokes. You don't even have to spell it. They will just be automatic at it. You know, during the 8-hour shift, you don't even have to check them verbally.
Right.
You don't even have to email them. I think you're not doing anything. You don't even have to ask that. As a client, if you want to catch your employee, whether he's doing good or doing not, leave them. Give them tasks that is, that you can manage without, or that you can check or audit, excuse me, without even asking somebody about it. Meaning, for example, Tyrus has given us a set of tasks, admin tasks, and I'm sure I'm sure he can check it. After we submitted the work, he will do it himself, and he will clock himself. How many minutes have I accomplished one single lead? And then he will multiply it based on the number of products. If we fall short, he's not going to blame us. Why? Because he will first then try to think, did I assign anything other than this task? Oh yeah, I remember I asked him to call the city, or I asked him to call the sheriff, or I asked him to call the water department, which probably they have been on hold for more than 10 or 15 minutes before somebody really addressed their concern. So you see, there are factors. Not every time a VA lacks production, it means they're slacking off. And not all the time it's the case. Sometimes the VA really slacks off. Thus, excuse me, um, what happened to me was there was this keynote speaker that I worked with. I'm not going to name drop, but it's not in Maryland. It was way back 2013. It was my first keynote speaking client.
Mm-hmm.
Paid me 150 bucks. Excuse me. Paid me 150 bucks and gave me a list of 2000 plus. To my understanding, and it was very clear to me at that time, was I have to call as many based on the amount that he paid. Okay. In 3 days. In 3 days.
Wow.
2000 list, 3 days, 150 bucks. Okay. And what I did was I was able to finish 300. By the way, each lead cost around 8 minutes per call.
Wow.
Not unless there's a hang up, meaning it's a lost cause, so it's not counted. I was able to finish that, and not the 2000 list. I was able to finish a couple, and I was surprised that he was asking for a refund when deliberation time came. So that's one of the failures that I had. I'm not even going to elaborate what transpired, but you know, I took a shot and I returned half of the money because I told him I got to be paid for my time. And please excuse me, guys, because I got to eat as well. At that time, I didn't have a company. I was just a VA myself, and I saw that as a situation where a client is taking an opportunity to take what's mine or what I worked for. So that's one of the things that the moral lesson is: you have to be clear. Clarity,
Mm-hmm.
which is pointing to what Tyrus was saying earlier, documented. You know, never rely on yourself to remember everything you have said. Okay. So you may be driving at the time that you have given somebody an order to do something. And then he did that, and you emailed when you stopped over. And that's another task. So he was able to do the verbal, or the one that you verbalized, but was not able to complete the one you emailed, and you couldn't remember the one you verbalized, the instruction that you verbalized, and then you blame that person. That's not being organized. That's not road to success. If you want to be successful in this business, if you're a lone ranger, then you can do whatever you want. You can be as disorganized as you want, because you would understand yourself at the end of the day. But if you're working with another person, if you want to make the most out of that person, you have to make sure you organize your thought process. You organize the manner where the funnel of instruction comes in. You organize the manner you check the end of day work
Yep.
without without asking the person working for you to cut an arm so that you can understand what he did for the day.
Mm-hmm.
In translation, don't ask somebody to extend time unpaid just to have your EOD report, or do the end of day report within the time frame that you paid them for to do something that is income generating to do the EOD. It's not like that. Plus, SWOT analysis. To be an effective manager, for all you know, you are the client slash manager. You are managing yourself, you are managing the people you are working with, and you are managing the business IPO, meaning input of money, process of making money, output, money to your bank account. You're managing that as well. Apart from your finances, apart from your daily work, your family, matters, guys, you know what you got into, and you have to do this. You have exchanged a 9 to 5 job for a 24 by 7. To tell you honestly, I may be a VA, but I'm a business owner. I This is my business. This is our business. So I have exchanged leaving work and leaving the thought of work in my cubicle in exchange for, while I'm eating, I'm thinking about work. When my wife and I are talking, she's telling me about Barbies and ponytails and unicorns. I'm still thinking about work. We're watching a movie. I'm still thinking about work, and that's the kind of dedication you as an owner have to put on the table so that you later on, maybe 4 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 2 years down the road, you wouldn't have to think about work while talking to your wife, while eating. You can enjoy life. You know, you invest as early as now. You invest, a person on a person, just like what Tyra said. You invest in an assistant. You invest on a family member who may be in a VA or whatsoever. So long as you invest on somebody that you can hand over the time consuming tasks so that you can reset your brain, you know. Um, Another failure that I had was, it's actually a success, but it turned out to become, to be a failure. And sharing this to you because you are the party, um, that who should be aware. I I actually helped a client, you know, earn a lot of money in wholesaling, and this is local. I'm not going to name drop, but we felt disposable. I felt disposable. I gave the kind of dedication. I said no to a lot of projects
Mm-hmm.
just to be on that project because I said yes to them the first time. Okay. We closed a lot of deals, and we got a memo a year and 2 months later that we're getting canned. So I'm not really sure what their situation is right now, but the effect on a person like me is really heavy. Like, I gave everything I got. I gave my best shot. My dedication. I could have said yes to someone who will retain me for a longer period of time. But point of all this, you got to have the heart. You don't just switch lanes because you think you want to try this out or whatsoever. If the people you work with feels your sincerity, feels your loyalty, they will return the favor 2 times, 3 times, 10 times better.
Right. Building that
And
team, working that process.
yes, sir. And they will, if you've earned like 700,000, and by the way, that is the exact number that they earned, 700K. I was looking at the books. I kid you not. And this is legal business, by the way. Legal, okay? So 700K, you know, they could have earned more than that. It's been like 3 years, 4 years that we stopped working together. And in business, it multiplies. If this year you earn 700, you could be earning 20% more the next year. If you just reinvent yourself all the time and listen to the market, listen to, whatever new tools they're using, everybody and the competition is using. If you add that to your existing, then, you know, the 20% could be 50% more. depending on how you utilize it. But point is, they could have earned more because I already know how to work the I already know the workarounds. They didn't have to train me. If they're
Right.
going to be
Yep.
training me, it's the fact that they're using another tool, and they don't have to do that because YouTube or the company they bought the software for will do just that for them. You
Hmm.
know, they will train me and I will train the people they hired, on how to utilize it. So, point is, if you really want to become successful and don't want to keep going down to ground zero and start all over again, you got to invest in people and be loyal to the people.
Absolutely.
Another thing, Tyrus, is stop blaming people, whether it's a VA, whether it's a secretary you hired locally. You know, you blame the person for getting you the bagels you didn't like, but you're not listening to the reason why. Maybe the bagels you didn't like or you liked was not available, but your employee didn't want to come, empty-handed because he's concerned that you might work hungry. You know, you might have ulcers or anything like that. Listen, listen, and remember, if somebody commits a mistake in your team, it's not just that person committing the mistake. It's everyone's mistake. Why? That's the reason for us being a team. You don't see the Chicago Bulls or the Lakers losing, and one player just shows on the standing. LeBron James 0-1. Zero wins, one loss. It's the Lakers who is 0-1. It's the Lakers. It's the team. So you don't really like blame people. The company who grows is usually the objective companies, wherein they look at the situation, they recognize the mistake, but they don't really meditate on it, just the same way as Tyrus is, and just skip the drama in between and move on to the solution.
Yep. Soon if we notice a mistake, I say, hey Rob, I noticed that this didn't happen, that we need to do this. Is there something that I can do to make sure that it's in
Exactly.
place, that we don't do it again? Rob said, no, sir, everything's in place. It was just a hiccup or a blip. I got it. Or he'll say, yes, sir, you didn't have that. Because it's been sometimes I thought I put something in the SOP and I didn't. And then Rob would tell me, sir, that's not in there. And I'll bring it up and I say, oh, you're right. You're right. So as we start to wind down, and I've loved having you here, Rob, on the
Thank you, sir.
platform to just give your perspective, because a lot of times, like you said, people don't give the VA, the team members, their perspective. Is all about what tasks you can do for me as a company owner, and I'm gonna fire you if you can't do it quickly.
Hmm.
What we deliver, what's different about our team, and what's how you as an individual, as a business, as a company can grow with VAs is all rooted in teamwork.
Hmm.
Rooted in you making it clear, to Rob's point, having all your documents and everything in order, and then working with the VA. Now, there are those that say, well, I don't have time to create documentation. That's what consultants are for. So you would need to hire a consultant, and you're really going to sit down with that person. Only thing a consultant does is you talk, they record, and then they build your process for you.
Hmm.
So that is not the VA's job, though, unless you hire a VA that says, I'm a consultant VA, I will build your process. So you have to be clear on that. A lot of people aren't clear with that. They are, well, my VA should build the process for me. And like Rob said, if you hire the VA to call 1,000 people, but you tell them to build a process, that's
Hmm.
taken away from that time. That's taken away from their ability to actually do that task. So, because Rob is speaking the truth, I will send 50 tasks in an email. There's not a point to where I go and I'm like, hey Rob, why didn't X get done? I look at the end of the day report, which they always give me before they leave, before their time is up. They stop before the time is up, 5 p.m. Eastern time. At 4:30, they're working on the end of the day report. Not at 6, not at 7. And then I look at it and I say, okay, those are the things that were done. These are the things I asked for. And we move on from there. Now, there are other things that you can do to understand what your VA is doing, what they're spending their time on. And we use a lot of software, but that's a different totally deeper dive conversation on actually how to get into all of that. But offer your VA that family atmosphere, that you care, offer training on whatever software you're using. How do I communicate with my VAs? We communicate with um, Google Hangouts. We communicate via Skype. I have Ring Central that everybody has a phone number. So we all make that call. We can jump on conferences. We can do web meetings. I can show them things because that's a part of that training.
Hmm.
Um, So, Rob, what do you, as a takeaway, the last thing, because we can do another call and we can deep dive and
Yeah.
people can put your questions in that you may have. We can help you with those. But what's the difference between most virtual assistants and the team that we have? What would you think is the overall difference? What is different about the team that we have?
Okay. First noticeable item. First noticeable thing is that we are office based. We have a team of managers who oversees the work that a paying client is has hired us to do. We can assure you, no one is doing multiple accounts and being paid multiple times, but delivering half butt work. Okay. Number two, we are reliable. We are very resourceful, and Tyrus has given us the capability to have to be on multiple locations. And the good thing is that whether there's a power outage, there's an internet outage, this is not the only place that we can work. There's another place, different places that we can work with, or we can work on. And finally, integrity.
Yep.
Integrity. Um, After Kenny, Tyrus has become really a great mentor in terms of, on the spiritual side, on the work side of things. I didn't even know what property management is when I was doing wholesaling. you know I didn't know a thing or a thing about property management, but Tyrus showed me everything. It's like I went to college with, I'm holding a degree, bachelor in science, in property management, because of all the SOPs he wrote, of all the videos that he recorded, and how to execute. So number three, and this is the last, is the expertise. I'm not bragging or I'm not boasting about this, but we there is the fact is we learn on a daily basis, and it never stops. No one is above another in terms of reaching the top of knowledge in any industry. But what I'm trying to say is that the dedication, the effort, my guys, the team in here, the Philippine team here, I commend everybody, because in a year we only take 6 days accumulated worth of vacation, and that is a day before Christmas, Christmas itself, and after Christmas, a day after Christmas. And then we go to work again, and then the next one would be, the last set would be before New Year, New Year, and the day after New Year. 6 days in 365, excluding the weekends. I couldn't calculate it off my head, but you know,
Mhm.
um, it's really the dedication and the will that to learn. deeper, to operate as if we are the owner of the business, whether you're a property management company, you're a wholesaling, company, or an individual wholesaler. We want to know so deep that the only thing we couldn't do for you is make coffee. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because we're not physically there.
Yep. Yep.
So I'd like to think we're a bandwidth away from you guys. That's the only thing, that's the only wall, the only thing that will hinder us from shaking hands physically. But technically, the amount of dedication, I'm not really afraid of firing anybody who shows less than what we have agreed to put out on a daily basis. This is to me, this is like show business. You go out there, whether you're sick or whether you have colds, we have to sing, we have to perform, we have to act. This is a daily show wherein you have to bring out your A game on a daily basis. And that, my friend, I think are the things that separates us, not really, takes us above everyone else, but what separates us from other companies. We believe that being pure, meaning being true to thyself, not outsourcing the already outsourced jobs just to kick in a dollar or two or $3 into our pocket and forget about it later on. We're all in here for consistency, of work delivered, for consistency of money, income coming in. It's a two-way street.
Yep.
How can you lose? So those are the top three things, sir, I think.
And they're all true. I mean, I've been, like I said, working with you guys since 2014. I've never had an issue that Rob couldn't resolve, that Rob didn't take care of. And I'm sure he's taken care of a lot of things that I don't know. He's picked up things that I've missed. So when you're building your team, when you're automating your business, when you're trying to go on autopilot, think about those tips. Listen to both sides of the story, as you as the owner, and then the VA as the um, independent contractor employee. Think about those different things, and you can build a team. But it does take time, it does take effort and energy to have a great team that will work for you and that can help you reach that 4-hour work week. And so for the book of the week, let me look up who is the actual author of that, so you can check it out. The 4-hour work week is written by, and then I would I would pull up a site that won't tell me, that didn't have the author's name in the site. Tim Ferriss. I thought it was Tim Ferriss. I guess I kind of second guessed myself. So check that out. It is all about retiring early and working a blueprint of automating your business, putting on autopilot, kind of automating your life too. Those mundane daily tasks that you can do. One example I can think of off the top of my head is doing weekly laundry. Oh my goodness. And there are services out there that will come, bag up your laundry, take it, launder it, fold it, and bring it back. And they charge per pound. So for some people that may work out. I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but yeah, that is definitely part of that book. And again, I'd like to thank all of you for joining Rob and I on the empowerment platform. Reach out to us for any questions, on Facebook at Empowerment Platform. You can also go to my other page at Tyrus Shivers, on Twitter at Tyrus Shivers, YouTube at the Empowerment Platform. So leave us a message, reach out to us, DM me. I can answer any questions that you may need, and we can help you also to set up your business if you want to run autopilot, because Rob and I have set it up where we can come in and train your VAs if you need them to operate at a higher level, if you want them to do differently, be differently, and really working your business work for you. we can come in and help set up that training and just straighten out that path for you. Again, thank you and good night.